make my New Year's Eve dress with me. And in typical fashion, I have procrastinated and now I have about 24 hours to whip this up. I'm gonna be using the Mood fabric pattern, the Valentina dress. I'm actually gonna remove the skirt part and I'm gonna replace it with a bubble skirt. So let's get started. I've already printed out the pattern and cut out the pieces. And I also went ahead and marked all of my darts and my notches as well. The first step is to just take the top front side and attach it to the top front center. I'm starting off with my shell fabric, but you wanna repeat this step with your lining as well. I'm gonna start by taking both pattern pieces, putting right sides together and then lining up the notches before I go ahead and pin this seam. This is where we're going to be sewing. I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch seam allowance for all of the seams in this project. At this point, I would recommend going ahead and pressing the seams. Step 2 is really similar to step 1, only we are using the top back center and top back side. Next, you want to take the 2 pieces that you prepared in step 1, line up the center seam and sew that together. At this point, we're going to go ahead and sew in the darts in our cup pieces. Once the darts are sewn, we can go ahead and start installing the cups. Once both cups are installed, go ahead and fold down the seam allowance to create a channel for your underwire. Before you actually install the underwire though, you're going to want to line up the shell and the lining and sew along the neckline. Once that's done, go ahead and put the underwire into the channel and sew up these side seams. These stupid little bra cup things are always optional, but I decided to go ahead and add them in. I started by just finding the center of the cup and lining it up with the center seam, pinning it in, and then I sewed from the front. We're going to go ahead and sew in the side seam at this point. Once that's done, you'll take right sides together and finish up sewing the armhole and the neckline around the back. Closing up the sleeve seams was a little bit trickier for me. You need to line up the right sides individually, and then I opted to use a top stitch to seal up the sides of the sleeves, and once that's done, the bodice is complete. For the bubble skirt, I'm going to be using the Erica skirt pattern from Mood. I started off the skirt by closing up the side seams on both the lining and the shell fabric. I then added a basting stitch into the waist of both pieces. I cut this down the middle. Yeah, there's no additional seam allowance. We're just gonna have to roll with it because I need a zipper. I'm just gonna start by gathering the bottom and going ahead and sewing it to the bottom of the liner to create that bubble effect. Now I'm gonna go ahead and baste the back seam. So in order to sew up the side seam, I pretty much just have this open and I'm gonna sew about a 1/2 inch or so seam allowance along this edge here. Now I'm taking the bodice, I have opened it up. So we have the shell and the lining, and I'm sewing the center back, the basting stitch. I'm going to attach the bodice to the shell here just with a basting stitch. I'm going to finish pinning the zipper in. Zipper is fully installed. I'm going to go ahead and sew this down. I'm just going to do a top stitch at the bottom of the bodice. And this is the full dress, all complete and ready to party.